Hello, hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, whatever time that you're listening to this. Is your family facing one of the many common issues that Christian families are facing today? And how do we fortify your family against these issues?
We can see that we're living in a time in which our families
Mm-hmm.
are under attack from
Yes.
every direction. All these directions, the family is being attacked. And I love the question that you're posing today.
Mm-hmm.
How can we fortify our families in these days? What does that mean to fortify our families? So, how can we do it? What does it really mean to fortify our families? Do
Mm-hmm.
we have time to fortify our families?
Yes.
And as you think about what we're saying today, I want you to reflect on this question. Is your family fortified
Yes.
against the wiles of the enemy?
Yes, so stay tuned. That is what we're talking about today. And for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Welcome. We have individuals joining us from our Facebook page and also on YouTube. And where else?
In our group.
In our group. Hi, in our private group. So, for those who are just joining us for the first time, I am Sanya Dookie and
I'm Courtney Dookie.
my lovely husband, and we're both psychotherapists here in our private practice. But we are also founders of Duki's Institute, which is an organization dedicated to enriching and nurturing the lives of Christian families. And there are two areas, actually three areas we focus on. We focus on helping families rebuild their altar, because what we have found is that a lot of the times when we're having issues in families, it's because something we need to kind of focus on our altar a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also focus on restoring marriages. We use our skills as psychologists, as psychotherapists, um, grounded and rooted in the word of God to help you to restore your marriage. And we also focus on how do you help your children to be nurtured and to be discipled into having a relationship with Jesus. So we believe our family is the first ministry.
It's true.
Yeah, the family is the first ministry, and so that is what we help with.
And not only the first ministry, at least in theory,
Yeah.
it should be our highest value.
Yes.
And we'll talk more about the value system. But our family is not only our first ministry, it should be the most highly exalted value that we portray and we focus on building.
Yes, yes. All right, so today we're talking about how do you fortify, how to fortify your family. And so we got researching because sometimes when we're in our work with clients, we already know the issues, but we want to hear what everybody has to say, right? And especially as it relates to the Christian family.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were a few that came up, the most common concerns that Christian families are facing. And I'd like to hear from you. What do you think? What do you think is the most common concern that Christian families are facing today? So there was a few that popped up, and one of them is surrounding living in an environment that is not sharing the same Christocentric values as you do. All right, so that's one of the big things.
And that's a big one because oftentimes we are bombarded, we are exposed to so many different things that are what I guess in the research and others refer to as the anti-Christian culture. And we don't need to doubt it. We live in a anti-Christian culture, and our children, our wives, our husbands, we're exposed to this on a daily basis. How do we deal with this culture? How, if our faith is essential to the growth and development and strength of our family, how do we live as a family amongst or within this anti-Christian culture? How do we maintain our faith base in this culture? And I think that's an important thing for us to think about. It's one of the greatest challenges I think that families are facing today.
Yes. So we want to hear from you. Is that a challenge for you and your family? We'd love to hear from you. The other one that we hear is the struggle against social media. That's a very common one.
Hmm.
Especially, I hear this especially from parents. They're saying, oh man, the struggle is real when it comes to social media. There's a pull, there's an excitement, there's a certain level of stimulation that our children and our youth are getting from there, and parents are saying, ha, how do I
Deal with that.
how do I deal with that, and it's not only children and youth though, adults also do struggle, and we find that that really weakens our desire to strengthen and fortify our family altar.
And there's a piece to that because oftentimes what I've heard is sometimes parents are tired
Yes.
and they really just want a break. And oftentimes the break is to either go on Instagram or Facebook and you scroll through. You just want a moment to to sort of disappear or to disassociate, rest from
Use the
things.
word rest. Yes.
And oftentimes the children are left on their own in different ways, or it's the other way around. The children are so caught up on games and social media that there is limited time
Yeah.
for connection within the family. And again, these are challenges we see on a daily basis, and in order to fortify our families, we need to address
Yes.
these challenges. We need to find ways. The word I want us to think about is deliberate.
Be deliberate or intentional.
Intentional.
Yes, that's my word.
So it's intentional or deliberate about our families. Too long, I think, at least within my own family and what I've observed, is that sometimes we take things for granted.
Mhm.
And because we take things for granted, we neglect fortifying our families,
Yeah.
or we're intentional about other things and not our families. And it's the one that seems to get the it's the last thing on the list to do.
Last
Right?
option.
If you're creating a things to do list, it's work, it's school, it's all the other things, and family. Well, probably in sometimes I've seen these lists, and the family's not even on the list.
That's true. Yeah.
So again, the social media and the anti-Christian culture, those are two big ones that you brought up so far.
Yeah. Another one that we're seeing coming up here is busyness. Busyness. That's another thing here. There's quite a few that came up. Busyness, abuse, divorce, and another one that came up. I think that survey was done by Lifeway back in that's some years ago.
Some years ago.
But abuse and divorce was one of those that still came up, and recently, financial struggle. So those are things that we're not immune. We're not immune to these struggles at all, but unfortunately, that's what's causing issues in families as well.
And again, I will go back to the word intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I really want you to be intentional about your family. If we're intentional, the potential exists for the potential of divorce is reduced significantly.
Yes.
Because we're intentional about reaching and connecting with each other. Parents intentionally connecting with their children. Husbands intentionally connecting with their wives. Wives intentionally connecting with their husband. And if we are intentional, then it reduced the emotional imbalance, or the negative expression of emotions within the family. That goes down. So therefore, conflicts are being dealt with differently. Yeah. And the potential for divorce will reduce significantly. Right? So we are aware that most marriages that end up in divorce, it normally happens within that first 70 years. And how do we fortify the family within those 7 years so that I don't like the word immune, because we're not immune to the things around us,
Yeah.
but we can strengthen the walls of our families,
Yeah.
so that these things don't impact us the way we see them impacting many families today. Financial, man, we're living it today.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of families with financial challenges, and and sometimes there's ways and means to deal with this. One of the things I recommend to every family is find an experienced financial advisor and sit down with them
Yes.
and see where you are. Or if you don't need a financial advisor, at least sit down together, sit down with each other, and structure your finances. What's coming in? What's going out? How do we make this balance? And sometimes it's even tight that we find some challenges there, because by the time we finish paying the bills,
Yeah.
there's none left for anything else, and that is how it can become stressful.
Mhm.
But what I've discovered, if both persons, husband and wife, come together, they can maneuver and deal with those financial challenges in more effective ways. Because you can see, where can I cut,
Mhm.
or where do I need to make changes that can help with the family.
Yes.
And so financial stress is real. We live in a time in which I am seeing people, to solve the financial challenges in the family, they start to work harder and more
Take
frequent
double
double
shifts
shifts, and then this leads to
really.
busyness, to the other
Yeah.
problem, right? So it's
Yeah.
a domino effect, guys.
Yeah.
One leads to the other. So the financial stress might lead to working more hours. Working more hours make us more busy, and when we are more busy, we are tired, and we don't have time to connect with each other, and we don't have time to connect with the children, and it keeps going down.
Yeah, it's a domino effect. So we wanted to encourage you today and share with you a few points when it comes to fortifying your family, because at the end of the day, when everything else passes, your family remain. Your job is not there anymore. That big house that you wanted, and that big thing that you were working towards, that car, it's not there anymore. It's your family and that legacy that you are creating. That is what will remain unto eternity, right? And so we wanted to share with you today how to fortify your family against these things, so we don't struggle with these things. And even if you are struggling with these things, we wanted to encourage you that there are some things we can start doing today that can really help with that. And so we use the word fortify, and I went ahead and looked at the meaning of fortify. And this is the meaning that I got. It says to provide a place with defensive works as protection against attack. All right. I love that meaning. I believe that it really explains what I want for families, what we want for families.
Can you say it again? I think probably I missed it.
Provide a place, or in
A
this
place.
case, provide a family with defensive works as protection against attack.
So, in other words, we have to be deliberate about creating something, a system in which the system can be strong enough to deal with the attacks.
Yes. So it's not saying we're going to eradicate these attacks, because the truth is that there are going to be fiery darts.
And James talked about those darts coming at us, right?
Yes.
The devil throw them at us, and we're seeing it so real today, son.
Yeah.
Where the devil is really throwing darts at the family, and if we're not deliberate in creating that safe place, safe space for our families to thrive, that's where we miss the mark. If we're not creating that place, the devil sees a room, and he throws a dart at us, and he pulls it apart, and then it's a crumbling effect.
Yeah. And so, we want to share with you one or two things that you can start doing today to help to fortify your family.
family. One of the things I recommend to all families and is this, even before we start, they tell them what to do, is to sit down and create a value list.
Yes.
And this is important. Create a value list. When I say value list, what I mean, I'm talking about things we really value, important things: work, sports, um, hobbies,
Healthy life.
healthy lifestyle.
Healthy lifestyle.
All of these things are different hobbies. Education, different pursuit that we have. Outreach, church outreach.
Spiritual life.
Yes, all these things we that we enjoy doing. I like to say, write those things on a list. Then look at them and see which one is at the top of the list. And if family, normally we break family down into two categories. There is family, which has to do with potentially the entire family, husband, wife, and children. And then there is the intimate relationship, which has to do with just the husband and the wife. You write these things down, and then you go down and put a number beside them in terms of, and I like to use numbers in the context of time spent um, connecting with each of these values. Obviously, don't get me wrong, you're going to find more time being at the work end, because most of us, we spend most of our time at work. So then I use a phrase, not necessarily the quantity, but more the quality of time we're going to spend doing this. So what we want to establish, when you look at them in terms of hierarchy, which is at number one, which value is at number one, which value is at number two, which is at number three. And once you go down the list, you can look and say, you know what? Am I misplacing my values here? Because if our values are misaligned, we're open to anxiety, to depression, to family dysfunction. All these things we're open to if the family system of our value system is not in line. And once we establish that where our values are, and if say for example family or intimate relationship and family top values, and then I remember value doesn't mean the quantity of time, but the quality you want that to be.
That
right?
is what the value
That's the key thing, right? If you can say it's family, couples, and then we can even go into work, hobby. Then once you have that, then we can move into the step that Sana was taking us, which is, what do I need to do to ensure that family stays at number one? What do I need to do to ensure that the couples, the intimate relationship stays at number one and number two? What do I need to do now to deliberately to ensure that that's going to happen? And this is going to require us to be very specific with time, dates, and specific things you're going to do to enhance that.
So very intentional.
Yes.
And I love that first step that you gave because you have to really see the value of your family in order to be motivated to be intentional. If you don't see the value of your marriage, you're not going to care less about what you need to do. Okay? If you don't see the value of your role in nurturing your children and discipling your children, those are going to take second place. And when things come into your life, when the fiery darts attack, right, we're going to succumb to those things because we're going to get engulfed and distracted by those things, such as busyness, financial issues, work stress, social media. What are the other things we highlighted?
About divorce,
in relationship issues. We're going to be engulfed and distracted by those things because we don't focus on the value. I'd say we value our family, we value our marriage and our children, but we don't focus on it to say, hey, you know what? This is a precious pearl I have, and I need to ensure that I do whatever it takes to protect this treasure.
And that's why at the end of what I was going there, it's you once we establish our value system and we see that I want to live this way, then we go now and we look at how am I going to activate this. An example of this might be something like, if say for example a father is saying, I want to play a more active role in my children's life. That father may say that maybe that's a value that the father is not living up to. Well, that father need to look now and say, okay, what can I do to to live this value? The father might say, you know what, I'm going to take a more active role in their schooling. So I might going to be deliberate to help with some homework or different things. I'm going to take a deliberate role in their life. I'm going to set aside some time in which I'm spending this time. So and don't be general with this. It's going to be very specific.
Yeah.
So once a week for an hour, I'm going to spend this time with my children. And you may say once a week, but it's a start. Once a week, I'm going to spend this time with my children just to be there with them. I am going to plan to attend, say, the next parent teacher meeting when that's coming up. And I'm going to be there. And then another thing could say, you know what? In the next 2 months or so, I want to take my children out somewhere, just to go somewhere. We're just going to be there. And you deliberately put those dates and time in your schedule so you can be deliberate about connecting with your children. So that's like an example of if you want to live the value of spending more time or being more and more active parent.
Yeah.
If that's a value you want to live up to, you structure it there, put it in your schedule, and then you live up to it. You follow through with it. Again, not the quantity of time, but the quality of that time, and the children will remember that, and it will be a powerful thing to get the family, to fortify the family so that it can be strong.
Yes, so there are a few verses that I have. Guess what, guys? We're having technical difficulties behind here, but it's fine. We're gonna get going. So I looked up all the words when Scripture uses the word fortify. Remember, we talked about when we defined fortify, we're saying what? Putting
A place, create a place.
creating a place,
Yes.
Or creating protection, creating for a place protection and security, right? And some other words that came there was secure, protection, surround. And so I'd like for you to focus on those words: secure, protect, surround. Okay, focus on those words and to say, I want you to ask yourself, how am I securing my family, or relationship, and also spiritually? So I want you to ask yourself that question. And as we have been talking about, be specific, be practical. Okay, yeah, we can say, oh, yeah, I'm praying for my family, which is amazing.
Yes.
And, we're honing in on the captain of the wonderful heavenly host there, right? But at the same time, if we're not taking the time to spend in the Word of God and worshiping with our family, we're kind of not putting security, spiritual security around our family.
And one of the things I think in my book, Neuroplasticity, Healing the Brain from Psychological Disorder Through Biblical Meditation, one of the things I mentioned in that book is how do we connect to God as a secure base?
Yes.
Right? And I did this in my research. Primarily, I was talking about potentially individuals. But as a family, the same principle applies. How do we refer to God as, or connect to God as a safe place?
Yes.
If the psalmist says, God is my refuge and my strength. A refuge is a place of protection, a refuge, a place of security, a refuge, a place of comfort, a refuge, a place that I go because I know even when I'm in danger, when things are not going well, even in those difficult times, there is a place I can go where it will be quiet, it will be restful, and I can trust that God will take care of me.
Yes.
And that's what that's idea of security. How secure, and there is no alarm system, no other security system you can install in your home that is more secure than connecting with God.
Yeah.
And what we see, and this is not just theory,
Yeah.
when a family prays together, you actually can see that there's neurological connection, there's resonance going on inside of each person, and there is a release of oxytocin through that process. So there is bonding taking place there.
Yeah.
You miss that, guys. To build this level of security, to fortify the family, when we start to have worship, it releases hormones and neurochemicals that cause a family to bond together. So it's like if we have a family of a father and a mother and two children, you can have those four brains in weird ways being integrated with each other through this relational connection, this resonance process.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
In my recent research, it's just really confirms what you're saying here. In my recent research for my doctoral thesis, guys, I've been working on, it shows that teens who their family system values talking about God, spending time in the Word, and really that's a huge part of their lifestyle. It The research says that they're more resilient towards mental health related issues.
Wow.
Or
Powerful.
other stressors that they that influence their life. That's these are
powerful.
teenagers I'm talking, because I am doing the research on children and teens, and that's what the research yields.
And that's powerful, because I want to say that again, because so what I'm hearing from you, that based on your research, we can strengthen our teenagers, we can strengthen the way how they deal with emotional challenges and stress.
Yeah.
And both of us can attest to this. That a very sensitive population, powerful but sensitive population to work with is teenagers, especially around emotional regulation. And you're saying in your research that when a family worship together, it helped us strengthen the teenager to better be able to cope with the different stresses that stressors and stresses they're going through.
Yeah.
Man, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. I can't wait to release that, but what I've been writing. But I just wanted to let you know that, we always say that when you spend time in the Word of God, we always say, we treat it like it's just something casual, but no, it's life changing, it's fortifying. And we were talking about securing your family. We're saying, spend time together as a family. Yes, you can pray for your children, you can pray for your spouse, but the first step we always encourage families to do is go to God together. We always say to the spouses, go to God together. You're having problems, you can't agree on anything, go to God together. You're having problem with your children, they're not listening, they're being disobedient, go to God with them, right? And you'll see what happens. So that is securing your spiritual base of your family. Hello, guys. For those who are joining us, oh, thank you. Thanks for joining us. For those who just tuned in, we're talking about how to fortify your family against common issues that Christian families are facing. So
someone here says on Facebook, says, I really agree with both of you guys.
Thank you.
And yes, it is where we start. We need to be deliberate about our families, guys. We live in a very, again, I think I've said this about 3 times today so far. We live in a very serious time.
Yes, yeah. And we are under attack, and that's the definition of fortify.
Yes.
Securing and protecting a place, in this case, our family, against attack.
And not only that, but in securing the family against attack goes into, before we started, you mentioned another piece of the word fortify, that is like providing nutrients.
Yes.
Right? And as we talked about worship and spending time with God, what better way to provide nutrients?
Yes.
For families.
So that's the thing. Like as I went through the word and I said, okay, I want to hear how the word fortify is used. Okay, and these were the ones that came up. It talked about, of course, we know the one with the wall. You fortify a city, and that's through the structure itself. And I believe we let me reiterate that when you talk about getting clear on your values as a family, I believe that is how you create a wall, a healthy wall around your family, because your family is a sacred circle, right? And so knowing your values, knowing your standards, and God being at the head of those values and those standards, that is you fortifying the structure and foundation of your family. Okay, so that's step one. Well, how many steps have we gone on, guys? We want to hear your thoughts. So the other thing that I got from the scriptures as I was reading through Judges, that's where I found
Mhm.
them. One of them was referring to when he said, "Fortify yourself and eat before you go." So I was like, "Fortify yourself and eat before you go." So what this is saying is, you need to nourish yourself. You need to spend the time to restore your body, right? That's what I got from there before you go along, before you move forward.
Wow.
And what does that mean for the family?
Well, not even before you go there, this what comes to my mind. I like antidotes. So what do I mean by that? If there's a problem, I normally ask myself, what's the antidote for it? And one of the problems when we said, challenges that families are facing today,
Yeah.
one of the things we highlighted was busyness.
Yes.
And it seems, based on the passage you're describing from Judges, that seems to be the antidote for busyness, where get some nutrients, some nourishment before you go. Because when you get that nutrient, that nourishment before you go, is the antidote for because you're taking time.
Yes.
You're spending some time to get that strength.
Yeah.
And when we have that strength, we're slowing down things.
Yes.
When we slow down things, we don't get to be caught up by being overly busy or too busy. Even though, for those who are listening who know me, when I talk about business, I refer to business as basically, it's using a weird language. It's fake. Um, it's a mental distorted thing. We tell ourselves that we are too busy, and you can underline that. To say we're too busy is a mental distortion that we've said to ourselves, because we can make time for the things that are important, and we should make time for the things that are important. We're never too busy to make time for the things that are important.
Yes.
And you reflect on your life. If something is important to you, you've made the time for it, and you will make the time for it.
Of course.
I put it this way: if you have an appointment that you pay for, and if you don't go to that appointment, you will charge nonetheless. Will you miss the appointment? You're going to pay.
Yeah.
More than likely, you're not going to miss the appointment.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't matter how busy you are, you're going to make that appointment, because there's something that you're going to lose. You're going to lose your money because you pay for that appointment. And it's greater likelihood that you're going to show up. Can we see the same thing with our families? It's because we think we're not paying for the time we're not spending with our family, but because we're not paying, we say, oh, you know what, I can't, I'm busy, I'm doing all these other things. But yeah, it's like you're paying for it, because in the end, if we don't spend time and build our families, we will pay.
Yeah, unfortunately. Just a quick practical example, right? A lot of times we always say, when the children are acting up, one of the questions I ask is, how much time do they get to spend with their parents, or how much time do they get to really spend as a family unit? And we often realize that, or the family often realize, oh wow, okay, we've been so busy from school, and when you're school, we're making dinner and in front of the TV, and then it's bedtime, and then the same routine continues, and then the children start acting up. But what happens is that the children are so emotionally deprived that the behavior starts, right? And that is just for children, because so what does that look like as a family unit? We become emotionally detached, and we become emotionally deprived as well. And what we start to seek this fulfillment in other places. For the teens, I'll tell you where they go. They go to social media, and they will also go to their peers. And for us as adults, where do we go? We go to our job, or we seek the high from the next project. Right? What is that next goal that I have? And we rush after those things, but really what we need to come together as a family and utilize what God has given us, which is the gift of connection and reciprocation as a family unit, and help to fulfill each other's needs emotionally, so we don't have to be rushing after everything else out there.
I want you to ask yourself the question based on what Sana shared. Are we spending that time to get that nutrient? I know we're coming to an end here in our program today, but are we spending that time
Mhm.
to get that nutrient? Someone says here from Facebook, this comment: God is the center of our family relationship. I always ask myself, what would God do in in situation that arises?
Mm.
What would God do
Mhm.
in situations that arises? And I'm seeing this person say, you know what? The family relationship
Mhm.
is the most important one, second to a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Are we spending that time after we are fortified and secure? Are we spending that time to get the nutrient we need?
Mhm.
These nutrients will help us physically, spiritually, relationally,
Yeah.
and psychologically.
Yeah.
Are we getting the nutrient to do that? And that's what I want you to think about. Are you going on empty in your physical health? Are you going to empty in your relationship health with either your spouse or your children? You're going to empty. Are you going to empty spiritually because you're so busy?
Yeah.
Are you going to empty psychologically because you're so busy?
Mhm.
Take a step back and ask, when was the last time I get some nutrient
Mhm.
so I can keep going?
Yeah.
Or like one of the persons I work with said this to me, sometimes I feel like I'm running on fumes.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel
I've had that
like I'm running on
feeling.
fumes. There's no fuel. I'm
Yes.
totally dry and I just feel like I'm running on fumes.
Ooh, I think we can relate to that now with the gas. We're hoping that our car can run on fumes, but honestly, like I know how that feels. I know for myself, if I don't spend that time whenever
Mhm.
I neglect that time with God personally, I feel empty and I'm more agitated and I'm not carrying out the duties that I need to properly, right? So, as you can see here, we're always pointing back to God, is filling
Mhm.
ourselves with God because there's a song with every day with Him is sweeter than the day
Sweet and day before
before.
the one.
Yeah, it's real. It's real, and I don't know, like this at this stage in my life, I'm hearing these phrases and they're becoming so real to
Real.
me. I was like, while I was younger, it didn't really connect. But now, as I'm living life and having these experiences, these
It's
ups
connecting
and these
more.
downs and trial and errors, I'm like, wow, okay, this is real. The last example I have for you in the example of when fortified was used, guys, my computer broke, so I don't have the references with me right now, but this is an example of when they guess I don't remember who it was. They were leaving, they were going somewhere, so they got up really early in the morning to leave, and they were told, hey, come on, just fortify yourself and stay with us a little while longer,
Mhm.
and then you can go in the afternoon, right? And for me, that represented rest.
Mhm.
So we have alluded to this before, but as a family, we also need to practice the we need to observe the practice of rest
Rest.
for ourselves. I really look forward to Saturdays. That's our Sabbath as a family, and that's the day when we rest from our work and other things, right? Because we get to spend the time as a family and also spiritually reconnecting with God. For others, it's Sunday. That's your day when you spend time as a family and also fellowshipping with other believers. But rest, what does rest look like? For others, it's vacation,
Mhm.
taking that time. It could be one day of the week, as I always say, 1 hour or half an hour each day to check in as a
Checking in.
family. One day of the week when you can do something as a
Family.
family, and then one day in the month, really, you do something out. Could be a field trip or
Think
something, go for
different.
a
Yeah.
walk, do something different. And then you also plan a vacation away from all work, disconnecting from what you need to do, man. Like, ugh, guys, just try this. So resting, spending the
Time.
time to rest as a family, physically, spiritually, mentally, rest from everything else in the world that is bombarding us, and just be together.
Be together.
Be together.
Someone else says, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and so is our family worship in the morning. We must never miss it.
Yes.
Amen. And I think that's a powerful place as we come to an end of our discussion today. We'll continue these discussions. And if you need to share this for some family to be encouraged, some family, some couples, some parents to be empowered and encouraged, please share this with them. We will be on every Monday.
Yes.
At 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Yes.
We used to do this program. We slowed down last year.
A lot of change. We did, guys. We went through a lot of change. We moved city. We a lot of things.
We're just coming back, and we're looking forward to empowering every family that needs to connect. And stay tuned. Share these things. Someone else says that I look forward to for Sabbath with my family too. It is a powerful time when we can find that time to rest and relax and just tune out everything else. And again, the word we started with today is a word I want us to end on, is be intentional, be deliberate and intentional about our family and how we preserve the sanctity of our family, and how do we fortify our family. Any final words before we go, Sam?
Well, I think we said it. We said a mouthful, but all I can say is if you're just tuning in at the end, I recommend that you watch the replay, because what we shared with you just now is kind of like a bulletproof vest.
Yes.
Against the attack, against the distractions, against the stressors that we experience as a family in this life today. There's so much going on, guys. There's so much going on, and it is so easy to get carried away. And so we're just encouraging you to focus. Let that be your word this year. If you don't have a word yet for you, for you and your family, let fortify be your word. Talk to your children, talk to your spouse. Okay, how can we fortify our marriage? How can we fortify our parent-child relationship? How can we fortify our altar against the wiles of the enemy? So I just want to encourage you that to live your life intentionally, not only for now, but also for eternity.
Amen.
So I want to thank you for joining us today. Join us again next Monday, and please feel free to share this video, this link, and send us a message if there's a topic you would like for us to talk about as it relates to how to restore family life. That's what we're here for. Our heart, that's what our heart is. That's where our heart is. So send us a message and say, hey, I want you to talk about this. Okay. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. Until next time, take care and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.